Back inside the action here in My Own Words, the podcast. Yours truly, Stephen Smith, Touchdown Alabama Magazine. We're going to go to the phone lines right now where my main man, my good friend, and somebody I've built a close relationship with on the In My Own Words hotline. We bring in former Crimson Tide receiver and graduate of the University of Alabama, Mac Hereford is here. My man, Mac, what's going on, man?
Hey, Steven, how you doing? I really appreciate you having me on the show.
Man, I'm happy to have you here, man. Overjoyed to have you here. First and foremost, a tremendous career you had, man. You worked hard. You pushed yourself. You pushed the teammates around you. I know it's not easy, being a walk-on, but you were not only just a glue guy in the room, man. You made everybody around you better. So first and foremost, man, very proud of what you were able to do at Alabama.
Well, I really appreciate that. My career at Alabama was one that I really enjoyed, and it was my dream to play at Alabama one day. And I got there and made the most of it, and really enjoyed making great relationships with coaches and players. And if I could go back, I would do the same thing over again.
If you're just tuning into the show, ladies and gentlemen, we now have Mac Hereford, former Alabama wide receiver and graduate of the program, live on the phone line. Mac, of course, the big news right now, Scott Cochran, a longtime assistant to Nick Saban, longtime strength and conditioning coach, 13 years, now going to Georgia as the special teams coach. Upon you getting the news, what was your first reaction? What was your relationship like with Coach Cochran?
And initially hearing the news, it was shocking, just because he's been there so long, has great relationships with all the players, and has kind of made himself, known at Alabama. You don't think about Alabama football without Scott Cochran. And so I was kind of shocked about it. But at the same time, I'm really happy for him to be able to go and, continue and do what he wants to do, because, at the end of the day, he has dreams and aspirations and goals like all of us do. He chose that route and wants to be a head coach someday. And so to be able to do that, he had to get on field, and, Georgia offered him that opportunity.
Now, I know for a fact that this is going to, affect and hurt Alabama initially, just due to how close, like you said, Scott Cochran built a relationship with all the players, especially the former guys. They love coming home to see him. But do you see this as a crippling blow to Alabama, or do you look at this as more so a win-win for both sides?
I think that it definitely is a blow. Like you said, Coach Cochran was an awesome coach, strength-wise and just relationship-wise. He developed so many great relationships with players and helped us become great young men, and was always there for us. But at the same time, like we have Nick Saban. Alabama has Nick Saban, and Nick Saban's been able to do things that, people haven't been able to do in the past. And so I think it is a win. Yeah, it could be considered a win-win, because, Alabama's going to find someone who's eager, young, and ready to fill in the spot. And I'm sure that Saban can find someone, and, you won't be able to replace Coach Cochran, but, it's going to be new. And then on Coach Cochran's side, he's going to have a great opportunity to build a different name for himself and start, a different path. And I think it'll work out for both of us in the end.
Now, the conversation right now, the hottest conversation going around right now, Mac, is in terms of Alabama football, the quarterback position. Tua Tagovailoa, the great career he had, the great young man that he was and is, off to the NFL. You've got, a Bryce Young coming up in here, 5-star from Modern Day High School in California. Everybody's kind of talking about him. But you play with a young man, Mac Jones. You know Mac. You guys hang out around each other. You guys threw around to each other. Both of the families that you guys have know each other well. You really know not just Mac Jones, but you really know the ins and outs of this program, seeing that you played here. For people that try to some extent, write off Mac Jones, what do you say to those people when you talk about how big of a leader that this young man is?
I mean, well, like you said, I've been able to develop a great relationship with Mac over the years, and him coming in as a freshman, No, I don't think he would have, his freshman year was ready. But over time, I think people forget how long he's been there, and the work he's put in is just unreal. This is a guy who's throwing almost every single day of the week with just tons of different receivers and working to, expert in his craft, and become an expert in his craft. And I think he's the man for the job. I mean, a prime example of that was this year when he gets to, when Tua went down and Mac had to come in, he did an unbelievable job. I mean, I don't know many people who could come in, a top program when you have a quarterback who is one of the best in the country, if not the best quarterback in the country, go down, and you have another quarterback come in and put up numbers, do well, have great chemistry with the team. And that says a lot about Mac. But then, and specifically in the Michigan game, I saw him take hits that I haven't seen a lot of quarterbacks ever take in college football, and he would still get up. He would get right back up. And I remember he ripped off his patch. One of his patches on his jersey was kind of hanging off. He ripped it off after a huge hit and just put on that face that said, I'm ready to do this thing. Like he's a warrior. And that speaks a lot to me and to other guys. I've heard other guys on the sideline saying, that guy right there, like he's a man of the people. He wants this. He's worked hard. He's been there, and it's his time to shine.
We're live here on the phone lines, ladies and gentlemen. If you're just tuning in to In My Own Words with my good friend and former Alabama wide receiver, graduate of the University of Alabama, Mac Hereford here on the In My Own Words hotline. Mac, just continuing with this conversation, when Tua went down, because I was there at the Tennessee game, and of course the Mississippi State game as well. But when Tua went down against Tennessee, first and foremost, and Mac goes out there, and throughout that entire process, did you see any part of the offense change at all from Steve Sarkisian's standpoint between Tua and Mac?
I think that, moving from Tua to Mac, he started off having Mac throw some screens, which is, speaks volumes to Coach Sarkisian's intelligence. I mean, he did that because he wanted Mac to be able to develop confidence. And confidence is a huge thing for Mac. If he's confident, I think he can take down anything. And so I think Coach Sark had him throwing a couple of screens, shorter passes at first to try to make him feel more comfortable back there in the pocket.
And Mac went on to have a huge game, or huge games against Arkansas, Auburn, and Michigan, just built off that confidence. Mac, when you look at, of course, this upcoming spring and the 2020 season itself, who are some guys, offensively and defensively, that you could tell somebody right now, watch this player, watch this guy, he is going to be something else? Who would be some players you would name right now, offensively or defensively, that are going to be special in 2020 just, from you playing with them?
I can name a ton of guys off the top of my head. One guy on defense that sticks out in particular is Patrick Surtain. I know people have seen him, dominate and do well in the previous years, but I think he's going to continue to develop and just kill it. I mean, when he came in, I knew something was different about him. He reminded me a lot of Minkah Fitzpatrick, and his size is great. He's so disciplined, no off the field problems, and he's just a great, hardworking guy. And one of those guys at Alabama that I think is one of the top players. Yet he works, harder than anyone I know. So I would think he's one on defense for sure, as well as guys like Jalen Moody and Cajo, both young linebackers who haven't gotten as much of a chance as they may have wanted so far. But both those guys, in my opinion, are great players. And, they have lots of speed and lots of strength that hopefully they'll get to show off in spring. And on the offensive side of the ball, I just look forward to seeing, obviously Waddle's returning. And you have Devontae Smith, who's just, it's unbelievable that he's returning. He'll be a key asset to the Tide offense next year. And, and Najee and Trey Sanders. I didn't get to see much of Trey because of his injury, but the guy seems like he's got such a good skill set and unbelievable speed. So I'd love to see what he does. And then in the offensive line position, a guy I'm close with that I think will, more people will start to see on their radar is Pierce Quick.
That guy's nasty.
Big guy. He's nasty. He's one of the nicest guys off the field. And, when he gets on the field, when I see him in the trenches, it's a whole different person in there. And he's been working so hard, and his athletic ability for an offensive lineman, I think, will definitely show. And I can't wait to see that in spring as well.
Just a couple more here I have for you, Mac, as Mac Hereford, former Alabama wide receiver and graduate of the University of Alabama, live here on In My Own Words. Pete Golding had a very interesting situation this past year. He comes in for the first time, he's the primary coordinator, and he enters a situation where there's no Dylan Moses is hurt before the year starts, Joshua McMillan the same deal, and other guys banged up and hurt as well. And as much as he wants to coach, he actually has to train up young players. What did you think of the job Pete Golding did last year, and how much of an improvement do you see him making in this upcoming season?
I think if you take into play that we had so many key players go down, for him to pick up and train these young guys and have a defense that could sustain and major games is a pretty big deal. I hear people say this and that, but at the end of the day, we forget that, like you said, we had some key players go down that our defense had kind of centered around, and his ability to just continue to make plays and, make calls that would have our defense sustaining in these games is impressive to me. And I think that, last year was his first year, he's got a lot of things to learn. And I think that after learning those things, he'll come into spring and come into the next season just a lot more prepared.
So what is next on the horizon for you, my man? What is next on that horizon?
Well, I graduated at Alabama and loved my 4 years there. But I'm looking forward to finishing off my football career with my 5th year of eligibility in college, and, to be decided on where I will end up. But looking forward to my next move, and, always be a part of the Bama family and support the Crimson Tide team. So looking forward to what's going to come next.
He's Mac Hereford, folks, joining us live on In My Own Words, the podcast, former Alabama wide receiver and graduate of the program. Mac, best wishes to you, my friend. So proud of you. Thanks for being a part of the show.
Steven, thank you so much for having me on. You've done a great job with the show and just covering Alabama football and, being a great friend and mentor, and I really appreciate you. And like I said, thanks again.
That was Mac Hereford, ladies and gentlemen, joining us live here on the show. Former Alabama wide receiver and graduate of the program. We're going to take another break right now, but upon our return, we dive back into your phone calls, thoughts, questions, and concerns right after this.
T-Town Menswear in the University Mall in Tuscaloosa. Touchdown Alabama Magazine is Alabama football's premier publication. A subscription to Touchdown Alabama Magazine is the perfect gift for any Alabama fan. For exclusive news and information, recruiting updates, a free annual print magazine, and more, go to touchdownalabama.com and click join. Only $5.95 per month, or pay $49.95 for a full year subscription. That's a saving of almost $22. Make sure to subscribe before it's too late and get our new freshly printed end of the year magazine issue. Go to touchdownalabama.com today and roll Tide.
Thank you for watching Touchdown Alabama Magazine's YouTube channel. To continue to get the best in Alabama football content, subscribe here and turn on your notifications to stay connected with the hottest shows covering your Crimson Tide.